Well, if you can guess by the thumbnail, we're working on a Henry 2kd-4, or 2kd-5, pardon me. This is, in my opinion, the best desktop that they ever made for Henry. They had figured out the bleeder circuit really well. They got that nailed down. This is one of the lighter Henrys. That's because they have one transformer to do everything. It's filament, plate, everything. They have a little tiny extra transformer over here for the power supply, for like bias and lights and that kind of shit. But for the most part, this in the 3500Z was the antithesis of what you could get. Now, I've never seen one like this before, at least when I started into this a little bit. I'm actually about a day into this. I took this apart yesterday and started looking at it. Anyhow, when I went to take it apart, all the hardware that's on this amp, none of it's the same. It's multiple different screw sets. It's all different. And what I was saying is I never saw one like this before. The sides and the top were painted black. Well, when they painted it black, they didn't do a very good job. They, it's kind of like they just kind of squirted paint over the Henry blue. You can see the Henry gray blue here in the corner. So, yeah, here. My job now is I need to come along, I need to clean this cabinet up. I'm pretty much doing a restoration restore on this deal here. And I got free reign from the customer to do whatever I want. He goes, man, just make it, do your thing. Just do you. So part of the counter, the numbers are a little scrubbed off. It's just a bunch of little stuff, like the power cord's completely shredded on the back of the amp. And it's got multiple spots with electrical tape. This kind of stuff's going on everywhere. That's to be expected with something this old. Now, there has been some modifications done to this on OPT and standby here. But this switch here, as far as I can tell, this is what controls if it keys or if it doesn't key for some reason. And then there's a plug that's been added to the back. We'll get more into this as we get more into detail. There's a plug that's been added to the back, and there's a muffin fan that sits on the top, and it's got a timer on it, and it kicks on and kicks off. I don't have that muffin fan, but I do have all the pieces. So we're doing a basic restore, refit, start up, power up, and run through its steps and its processes. So let's talk about what we got to get into doing that. Here is the biggest problem that these things have. It's this. If we look, each one of these bleeder resistors, and there's one bleeder for every cap, has got a piece of cardboard, and that's really what this is. It just is a piece of paper, hard paper. It's at the top of the resistor. It's the only thing that protects the resistor from damage from us tightening the nut down to hold it in place. Well, every one of these that's discolored, if I breathe on it wrong, they break. This one here is completely missing. Now what most guys would do is they would just tighten this nut down. We don't want to do that. We want to stay away from having that as a thought on our brain. Let me explain to you why. These insulators are here for a reason. These are here to keep you from biting into the edge of this resistor and causing a short. If you tighten that nut down, you run the chance of cracking the porcelain. Remember, this is porcelain dipped. This is basically glass dipped resistor, okay? Everybody says sandstone, wire wound, blah, blah. Yes, they are wire wound, but they are ceramic and coated. And it does not take much for you to break them. Well, because we have a solid metal rod that runs down through the middle of the bleeder, we have the chance, we have the possibility of cracking the top of the resistor and us having a short that can run all the way down the resistor and it pop out on the bottom and short out. And it'll blow up the whole power supply. Now, once again, let's back up for a second. And let's talk about these. These are the actual rectifiers from whenever this was built. It's written on the bottom, by the way. There's meticulous notes. I'll read all of that to you here in a minute. These diodes are $250 something for the set. And you can buy them from Harbach to this day. Or not Harbach, Henry Radio to this day. They're a little bit different. They're thicker. They do the same amount of power. They provide the same job, but they are spendy. So if all I've got to do is go down to my local craft store and go pick up work matte paper. Look at how thick this is. All I've got to do, and then create myself a punch me out some new paper and run some holes through those little dots, come through and replace all of these and make them new, right, and tight. I think I should do that other than going, oh yeah, let's just tighten that shit down. This is a lesson that was learned hard. I have been in the position where I have tightened the nut and ended up having to pay to have the amp shipped back and having to pay to replace the resistor and then fix the diodes. So if I'm telling you about it, it's not that I'm trying to create work for myself. Believe me, that's not how I think. I'm trying to make sure everybody gets the point of how to get this thing to go. Now, it has been here, this amp's been here for well over a year waiting for me to just go through it. Well, let's flip the thing up on its side and let's talk about its history. The gentleman that owned this amp was, well, effing amazing. Dude, I wish that everybody would keep these kind of notes. Just kind of walking around it last night, taking a look at it. I'm like, wait a minute. So this was new to him, or brand new. November 20th, 1980. Okay. The phone's ringing. I'm going to ignore it. Major cleaning, tightening, 1990, 1994, 1997. This was in January, December, and February 2015. And it says Marvel Mystery Oil, lubed, blower, 2013, 2015. This says cleaned relay, contacts, then it gives us the date, which is 2003 through 2015. Let's see, new 3500Z tubes. It's in shadow. Power supply caps, March 2007, 2014. Reinstalled IMAX. So it made it 27 years on the first set of tubes. I don't know about you all, that's pretty good. You and I both know if this ended up in the hands of a CBer, the tubes would have been dead within like 3 years, 4 years. So, I mean, it is what it is. This is the entire service history of this amp, written down in little tiny print on the bottom of this box. And I admire this because I know exactly where to start, what to go look at. So I know that the blower hasn't been lubed for 8 years, and that all effective maintenance stopped in 2015. So this thing hasn't had any love for over 8 years, is the long and the short of it. As I start to look around, I recognize I'm going to have to go in here and I'm going to have to rewire some of this stuff, like all these butt splices. Like I said, those leads, they run around and they attach to the switch that's up here on the front. So I'm going to ignore that and just understand there's parts out there in the world that... the first one of these I worked on, I thought it was missing parts. So I went down to our metal shop and I had them cut me out a piece of this expanded metal to cover this whole framed in area on the bottom side of the deck. It's like, man, why would somebody leave that? No, man, believe it or not, this is the way they build them. I was like, what in the hell? We put the, let me go over here real quick. Ooh, let's see here. Side piece. Wrong side piece. That's the top piece that's scratched to shit. Here we go. I gotta take this call. Hold on. That was the sprinkler company calling me back telling me they're not gonna be able to come winterize my sprinklers until the 27th of this month. And I was trying to explain to the gal, I said, man, we put up like $9,000 worth of decorations in our front yard, flamethrowers and 19-foot high skeleton and animatronic angel of death and full graveyard. I can't have you come blowing dirty water all over my... Anyhow, I'll figure out something else. Like maybe I'll just go buy a freaking compressor and blow it out myself. Anyhow, what I did is I had them cut me out, and I used the legs for that expanded metal, and it worked out okay. I remember I made a big stink out of that, and I kind of looking back at it in retrospect, I feel kind of like an idiot. But hey, you know, when you're young and dumb, you do young and dumb shit. The other thing that's kind of got me a little bit like, what the heck is this here? So we're going to take this apart and we're going to see what's going on in here. But the main thing is the bleeder resistors up here. And you can see in Henry's wisdom that they made it so that all of these things are accessible. So, I mean, you can say a lot of stuff about Henry radio amps. Not a whole lot of it's going to be bad, you know. That was money well spent, I'm here to tell you. Oh. Both things. Oh. I'm glad I spent the money on that way back when. I spent money on the higher end Ryobi non-directional, a little bit higher end sander, and I spent a ton of money on discs, and boy howdy am I glad I did. It made short work of this. Okay, so we're down to a 200 grit, which is a pretty good base. Everywhere, I see why I painted it black now. It makes total sense to me, because the gray that was underneath it was just dinged and nicked to shit, especially this side and the lid. Lid was hard up, man. Anyhow, sand down through the black and I'm finding all these nicks underneath the black, so I just kept on going and went right to the metal. So I've got exposed aluminum here. So what we'll do now is we'll do our job diligently and correctly. So that means we're going to get ourselves out a clean cloth. We're going to put some denatured on it. We're going to wipe all this down like naphtha denatured, let it dry, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to probably hit this with a I call it green, but it's kind of like a lime colored acid-based primer to really grip onto that aluminum and the substrate paint. And then we'll probably come back tomorrow after that gets a full night of drying and curing. We'll come back and we'll shoot this with 2-part epoxy gloss black, which means it's going to be as hard as the backside of most of y'all's heads, and it's going to be harder to scuff off than just regular old rattle can paint. So we'll make it look pretty. So, I mean, it just short work. You know, I used to do all this by hand, right? I had a wood block, piece of paper, and oh my God. And then I got the cheap Ryobi sander. This thing's silent. It's got a little built-in vacuum to it and a dust catch, and freaking awesome. Love it. Worth every penny. This is 14 4-wire. I'm going to replace this with 14-3. I'm going to file this down in the effort bucket, since it's obviously disintegrating. What they've done here is they've got, of course, black, red, and white, and they've abandoned the green wire completely. So, see, white, red, black. So, yeah. We're gonna make it happen, Cap. Looks beautiful in here. I'm gonna leave this plate off for a minute. I'm gonna go get me a mechanical pencil, and I'm gonna update this, because in a minute I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna oil the friggin' blower, and I'm gonna do the cleanup and tighten and fill that in. And we're gonna talk about the tubes. We're gonna fill that in. And we're gonna polish the relay contacts. We're gonna fill that in as well. And then I'm gonna sign it on this little plate, and we're gonna put it back together. Man, that's enough to make a guy really upset. I just went and checked the last 5 segments worth of video I've shot on what I've been doing and why I was doing it and how I was doing it, and I had no friggin' audio because I forgot to turn on my mic. Okay, so what you guys missed was the beginning of the cleaning and oiling procedure for this box. I started talking about the stuff when it comes to this relay, the kind of file that we use. That this is a product that you can buy off of Amazon. Okay, this is called a relay varnishing tool. And that's the part number. And how we need to apply just the lightest amount of pressure to here. That there are 3 points of contact in here that we need to clean. This one, the middle one, and the bottom side one. How we clean the 2 inner ones by themselves together. And then we clean this outer one by itself. And then we take our finger, and with the lightest amount of pressure all the way back here at the paddle, not out here at the contacts, but back here at the paddle, we close the relay by pushing in on the paddle very lightly. And how we use a up and down swirly motions. Getting very dramatic now, but it's okay. To clean the contacts, we're not looking for, oh, we're physically moving off powdered metal. We're cleaning contacts. We're just going to polish up the contact points. Then I went ahead and I showed how we're going to clean up this tuner, and what we use is this American Liberty oil products. The reason we use this is because it's like a mystery oil, except I'm allergic to mystery oil and I don't like smelling the mint. We use the machine oil, sewing machine oil, because there's no solids in it. And how we use the smallest drops. And we put it right here, right down inside that crack. Remember, oil attracts dust. Go right. I don't want to add any more oil to this. Go right down into this slot. We give it a little tiny drop, and that little tiny drop goes everywhere. And we do the same thing on the bushing that's back here, at the back of the tuner. So then I brought us around in the next little segment. I talked about how I signed all of these and I updated everything, and I put on here, like right here, BBI October 2022 and 2022. I updated our notes, and then I brought us around the front to the chain drive system and explained that there's a bushing here and another pressure bushing here, and then we all the different little places that we want to add just one very small, and I cannot stress this enough, very small drop of oil, less than that. And it'll percolate itself everywhere. It'll go down where it needs to go. So that brings us around to the front of the amp, and I explained about how the customer went ahead and pulled off this little knob and went ahead and pulled off this knob here, the counter knob, so they wouldn't get damaged in shipping, and put them in a nice little bag. But then we discovered that this little knob had literally been broke off. This is a pin that goes into this armature here, and that pin is pressure fit into the opening on the back side of this arm. Well, I did a creative workaround where I took a 632 stainless steel piece of hardware with a 3/8 inch long shaft and took it over and sanded it down till it was paper smooth on the back. And then I took the 632 thread nut with the retaining clips on it, the star washer built in. Took it over and sanded that down till it was only about a thread thick and put it on here. And that way we can maintain our clearance from the faceplate and the arm. See that? And still impart the amount of torque that we need. And looking at it from the side, you'd never even be able to tell it's been modified. That's what we're looking for. And then I had the big long conversation like it was new, and I'm going to mention it again because you never know where you're going to catch somebody. I've mentioned this in many other videos before. This is Henry, you guys. So they use their own hardware, their own keys. This is called a Bristol key. This has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six-sided key. All the edges are very sharp and they're not tapered, so they kind of suck to work with a little bit, but we want to index that for 0. I found this set of keys by totally farting around on the Henry radio page. They said, now available, Bristol keys for all of the knobs on all of Henry's equipment. And then I went on to tell a funny story about one of the guys that lives here locally. He bought himself a Henry 4 model 2kd-5 classic, and he couldn't get it to stop arcing because he didn't know anything about tuning an amplifier. So his solution to the entire thing, because, well, we didn't know any different then. You gotta remember, this is when I was in like my early 20s, 28, or late 20s, early 30s. His idea was just to mono band it and butcher the shit out of the box. And that's exactly what he went on to go do. He cut the whole thing apart, chopped it up, says this son-of-a-bitch never gonna arc again. Made it work on just 11 meters. One piece of Henry equipment completely lost. So anyhow, the story that I was telling was we were taking it apart and we tried every freaking Allen wrench that was on the face of the earth, and we couldn't get anything to get the set keys, or the set screws, tight. They would, no matter what we did, it felt like everything was stripping out. And he got really frustrated about that as well. He ended up doing a lot of silly shit because he just didn't want to learn. Anyhow, going forward a couple years, I very quickly figured out, just by twiddling around their page, that this was a different type of screw set. It's called a Bristol set. I'm sure it's British, and there's some like really seriously legit history to it, which I've never bothered to go look up, and I'm sure somebody in the doobly-doo is going to make a comment about it, which I think is awesome. Please feel free. I will read it and most likely give you a thumbs up, and then you'll hear me regurgitate it out here. And I'll give you credit for it if you look it up and tell me what the history of the Bristol key setup is, because I will friggin' love it. I just wish they weren't such a pain to get laced up inside the hole for things. Man, these are like stripped out. That's lame. All right. Okay. See? Okay, well, we're tight as we're going to get. Bristol keys be damned, away we go. We now have control of the counter. Whoopie doopie doo. Goes to a negative 97. Alright, we'll come back to that. This is the point where we were at. So, now, let's come up here. And let's put our bottom plate back on. And what do I do with my flat blade? Here we go. I freaking love these screwdrivers. Oh, man. Well, let me get this whip back together. Let's see if we still got audio. We do. All right. I was so mad as Barry to throw my microphone. I'm just glad I got it. Normally, I don't catch it until it's in post. And then I'm like, son of a gun. I don't want to go take the whole thing apart to get back there again. Needless to say, this has all been gone over. We've done all of the normal maintenance stuff that we would do, like oil, lube, tighten, check, screwed, dubed, tattoo, glued. We're there. You know what I'm saying? And the same person that decides they're going to find out all the information about the Bristol key, because I'm too lazy to Google it myself at this moment, this very second, and then get out here and sound like an authority, because I'm not. Can you also give me a couple links in the doobly-doo to a decent set of the same style Phillips? This is a flat blade, but the Phillips expansion. I know they make this tech for Phillips. I just haven't bothered to look it up yet. That'd be cool. No. Nope. There we go. All right, I'll be back. That is the red wire. I seen it fall, don't worry, you guys. I seen right where it went, too. Okay. So now that we're doing a bunch of that, we're done with the flipping the thing around a bunch. This will allow us to feed the wire back through. Get our hands on a little bit more of where these go. Okay. I feel fairly confident to proceed forward. We've got the power wire replaced. Put some heat shrink on the new wire to act kind of like as a bend radius relief. Everything's wired up just the way it was. I gave you about 2 more foot of wire, and then I did the power plug and also did the same thing on the power plug. So I think I'm good. I'm going to flip this over. There's a couple of the little small details I want to do on the front of this thing before Well, we're getting pretty close. It's time to start thinking about putting tubes in this thing and running it. So we've now got numbers all the way around. Had to hand create most of the ones on the lower roller counter. And I gotta get my pen out and fix that. That's a 9. Okay, that's every digit. Okay, so that's doable. Let's bring this down to the end. All right, so what we're doing now is I've got to get out my thing called a tordor. My friend calls it a tordor. It's actually a tornado detailing tool. And in here is a mixture of about 91% rubbing alcohol, a little bit of Windex, and some orange cleaner. Pretty straightforward. And we're going to take this outside, put about 125 psi worth of air in this end, and we're going to de-dust, de-douche, and de-flute this thing, make it look all pretty on the inside and clean. So, next step, you guys are going to chuckle. It's been a hot minute since I've been inside of one of these things with the tubes in it. My two fat ladies, their boobies are touching. This is like a 19, or like a 50 or 60-year-old woman that just discovered a fucking push-up bra, and she's got it on underneath her tube top, and her boobies are like. I was thinking, man, does this take a 3-400 or 4-400? No, it's 3-500Z. I went and looked it up. 3-500Z. Of course, we can't use it with these anode coolers. You'll see why once we let the camera down from this angle. But this thing is de-dusted. It is cleaned. All the contacts are polished. All of our resistors have got brand new insulators on it. The decade counter works. Everything has been diligently oiled, lubricated, touched, fondled, and buffed. Our safety interlock is now officially bypassed. This is our high voltage interlock. And the whole idea is when the lid's on it, that this little pressure ring here floats and doesn't make contact. When we take the top off, it shorts out against ground. This is your high voltage lead. You guys that have seen these before, you're familiar with this technology. It's elegant, simple, easy. Otherwise, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. We're going to bypass that for a minute. Just straight up bypass it. I think I'm ready to power this up. Actually, I'm sure I'm ready to power this up. Let's put some magic pixies in it and see if some smoke comes out. Okay, I don't know how well this is going to work with a new meter, but we're going to give it a shot on camera. Either way, the results will be the same. I'll just come back and do it with a different meter. This is my new Fluke, new to me anyhow. 97. I've been wanting one of these meters now for, well, about 5 or 6 years. And then my friend Zane at Big Rig Radio, he ended up scoring one for like dirt cheap. And I've been kind of looking at the internet for them on and off. And this one popped up the other day and I couldn't help myself but buy it. It's also a scope, but not really in the way that you would normally think about us using it. Anyhow, it gives us the ability to read AC and DC voltage at the same time, which is very handy for checking the quality of a power supply. And if this works the way I think it's going to work, this is going to give us kind of a cool result. Look at our voltage over here. Stabilized. Right at 3,000. Okay. Let's figure out why our meter's not working. Now, I got to get this measurement. We'll come back to this in a minute. I've had exactly 10 minutes to play with that since I've gotten it. Go over here and hook up old reliable. So it's showing us 3,300 volts on our 1,000 to 1 reduction probe. I've said 10 to 1 for so long, and I've even had people call and correct me, like, you know, BBI, it's a 10 to 1 probe. No, it's a 1,000 to 1 probe. I'm like, I know. Oh, there's like a middle ground, like it's off. Oh. Nah. Just make sure it's hard clicked. 2,200 volts on low. Gouda. That's interesting. That just popped off. Okay, we'll figure out what I got to do to fix that. The point is, got no high voltage leaks. The blower is, oh shoot, forgot to check the blower. Blower is definitely turning. See what we got for air movement on top of the tubage. Got 3 mile-an-hour wind. Units, knots, CFM. .35 CFM, and we've got 311 feet per second. So it's moving air, no doubt. It's got airflow. Okay, well, let's watch our bleeders do their thing. Get this bled down, we'll get it neutralized, and shoot, forgot to check for high voltage leak. Nothing. So what we're doing is we flip the voltmeter over to AC and we're looking for ripple. There's literally nothing. See, 0.0015. We're right at the very bottom end of things. That's the reason I wanted this to work. Let me tinker with that for a second. Hold on. Boy, that was tough to figure out not. As soon as I was able to let my brain let go of the fact that I need to go through the BNC connector, and this isn't going to work like a normal multimeter because it's designed to measure a lot more sensitive voltage than what I'm used to using it for, or using a multimeter for. This is an amazing piece of equipment. So it's in our RMS mode. Let's go look at this with DC, and then over here is showing us our voltage ripple. This is our actual AC side of the signal. Relatively flat, so we're looking at 3,400 volts through our 1,000 to 1 reduction probe. So that means our meter over here is a little bit off. And here we'll go to the low voltage side. 2,237 volts, 2,233 volts. So, and zero, and I mean zero. We're way down in the weeds. This level of noise, we're talking, this would be 1,000, so in theory this is 36 volts worth of noise, but then when we see actual scope, nothing. And that's what I call probe flutter, otherwise just ambient noise from the probe itself. So, I mean, when we shut this down, we're going to see a little bit of a drop. We're just talking ambient noise though. We're not even probing anything at this point. We're seeing the same amount of noise. So there's nothing. I don't worry about it until I see a volt. So nothing. freaking love this window. This window and that window. That makes me happy. But to achieve the proper level of measurement, I've got to put a 10-to-1 reduction on here, coming from a 1,000-to-1 reduction over here. So sensitive. It's sensitive. And then you got to make sure you got your probe range set correctly. There's a ton of stuff to this meter. I just went and grabbed the manual, sat down and read it real quick, and sat here and pushed some buttons like a monkey. I got to figure it out. So if a dumbass like me can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. Problem is, I don't have a lot of BNC probes over here with high, but I will. Have faith. I'm off to the internet. All right, let's get this little switch put back on, and let's hook up the anode to the tubes, and let's make this make power. I love that. I'm happy. Okay, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of totally farting around with this thing, because just the way it's got to sit on my workbench, and the fact that it's wide open, and there's about 700 places for me to literally kill myself on this thing. Like, if we touch anything here in this area, I die. I touch anything here, I die. I touch anything over here, I die. I touch anything back here, I die. Okay? And look at where my mic cord wants to rest naturally. So I'm going to shoot this tuned out. I'm going to show you everything running, and then we're going to move on to the next band. There's not going to be a lot of fiddly farting around here with this. You want to tune this on low power to find your resonance first, because this wheel right here, what we're turning, is a roller inductor, and if it's just a hence chicken pube out of tune, okay, it will flip an arc, and we don't want that. So this meter here is a 2,000 watt meter. Okay, it's a 1,000 watt slug in 2x. It's 1,000 in average, and that is a 5 watt slug in reverse back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to show you drive. Hello, 1, 2. So that's 100 watts. Remember, on the 2,000 watt scale, this hash mark here that's between the 40 and the 60, right there, is 1,000 watts. The next big hash mark, 12, 14, 16, 18, 2000. This scale is not going to change unless I specifically stated so. So we're on sideband. We're in the middle of 80 meters at the moment. We're running our ICOM 7300. Hello, 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 hello. Let's put the amp into operation. Hello, 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 hello. Got good input schwirr. Now let's go over here. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Hello, 1, 2. So we're getting our legal limit out of it with my RF parts dirty girls in it. Let's back the camera out a little bit, and let's look at where all our settings are for 80 meters. We are in the high mode, which means we're at 3,000 volts on the plate. I'm looking at the grid meter. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're perfectly in tune. If we put a little bit more drive in it, we would get more power out of it. But we're going to work with a 100 watt radio because that's what everybody's got today. All right, let me tune this thing out one more time, or again. First off, let me reach over here, and we're going to go now to 40 meters. Let's reach across the giant death box. We're going to go to 40. Across the giant death box. We go to AM mode. Turn the power way down on the radio. We go to AM. Step on the first foot pedal first. please don't let me die today doing this just to entertain some people on YouTube. Okay, so we're putting 3 watts worth of carrier into it. Let the tubes take a minute. You see why I do a lot of the tuning off the camera off? Man, it should be 40 meters should be somewhere right around in here. But it's not. Okay, so we're going to go off of AM. Hello, 1, 2. All right. Carefully put the mic down. This thing is going to work perfectly. I just know it. It's been too loved and maintained to not. Hello, 1, 2. Hello. Pretty spot on for just doing that with a dead carrier, I think. Hello. 14, 15, some change. So, okay. Now we're going to do 20, but this time I'm doing it without the camera on it. Okay, now we're on 40. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. Input tune's perfect. Hello, that's a little high for me, but hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's making the power. So, okay, let's reset. Let's go for 15 now. Okay, here we go, 15. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go up here. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Everything's perfect. All right. Now, the way this guy has relabeled this, I think, is lovely and wonderful, and I love it. I get out of that menu. I just bumped a button here. Hold on a second. Okay, the way he's labeled this is 10 through 12. So we're going to jump over to the 10 meter band. We're going to go to AM, turn our power down to like 25%. Okay. I'm like physically nervous. Okay. Now we'll go to sideband. Hello. Hello. Not happy. Hello. Still outside the butter zone. Let's let these tubes cool down because I'm beating the shit out of them. That's the reason I only use my own tubes. I don't want to use the customer's tubes, because if something goes wrong, I don't want to buy anybody a tube. I'd rather buy myself a tube. That, and I know what I put these through. They're not ammoniums. They're still at full output. Hello, 1, 2. Okay. Hello. 1, 2, 1, 2. Way high here. Hello. Hello. Chasing for it using this meter and the peak meter over here. We're falling about 200 watts shy from where I want to be, and I'm watching this, and this is a little bit higher than I want. Hello. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Hello. There, we got it now. Okay, so works on 10, no problem. That means it's going to work on 12, no problem. And with this wonderful roller inductor for our tank, it's a beautiful thing. It's really cool is how this whole circuit works, right? There's a set of doorknobs. Let's go in here and look. I gotta shut this down and let it cool off now. Bulbs are a little warm. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Whoa, where are you going, camera? Come here. A fluid dampened head. I just looked down for just a second to try and untangle my microphone, and it's freaking walking sideways here on me. There's a set of doorknobs that are here. They're right here. And the lower you go in frequency, the more capacitance it adds. This amplifier works just like every other amp on the face of the earth. Tube, blocker, capacitor, inductor coil for frequency, and capacitor to tune to the outside. So what we're doing here is we've got tube, first set of capacitors is fixed, variable roller inductor, and then a variable capacitor for the outside to tune to the outside. Well, it's the same chicken butt, just a different chicken little. All right, let's go ahead and let's shut this down. And let's speed the process along. High voltage is almost already all bled off. Put that there. Now it's going to blow air down inside the box. It's going to bounce around and then it blows up past the tubes. So in about 30 to 40 minutes from now, I'll be able to stick my hands in there and pull my tubes out again. Well, here it is all back in one piece. And I think the only thing I'm going to take off is going to be this outer control knob. But it works, and it's done. Not super stoked about the paint, but yeah, about the 5th time painting it, I'm done sanding it back and painting it. It is what it is. So, gentlemen, I'm going to say thanks. I'm going to big shout out to the Patreons over here and say thanks to you guys. That really, you're the ones that make this whole channel go. Other than my sheer will and determination on a daily basis, but for the most part, it's what helps. And if you guys have ever learned anything, and want to come help support the channel, it costs $1. Come join the Patreon group. And when you join the group, make sure to find the post that says handle and call sign list and put your handle or call sign in there so I can add you to the thank you list, which is coming up here in just 30 or 40 seconds from now. Big shout out to Siglant, XS, McMahon, Bird, Coaxial Dynamics, and of course I say this at the end of every video and I'm dead serious about it. This does not happen without all of you guys tuning in to watch, talk, listen, interact, and be involved. This is a slightly modified Henry 2kd-5. And it is a beautiful example of the antithesis of the 3500Z from Henry. Very pretty. I've tried twice to buy this from this guy. He says no. So, no means no. No touchy, no keepy. It turns around, it goes home. Gentlemen, on that note, I'm out of here. Remember, I'm always here to answer you guys' questions or help you with anything. If you've got a question about something I haven't already done a YouTube video on, don't hesitate to give me a call. And that's the number. I'll see you, gentlemen. Take care. And remember, all my other information is on bbiamps.com and, of course, the Facebook group BBI Amps. I am no longer accepting friends on Facebook. I've reached the 5,000 maximum. I've been there for a long, long time. So if you want to interact with me, you're going to need to come join the group on Facebook, BBI Amps. There's almost 7,000 of us in there now. So we'll see ya. I appreciate you guys. Hope you're all having a good one. I'll see you. Click, click.